And perhaps I'll see you before the end of this year, with 100 sandwiches in the next DLC. That's right, we're doing it again. 200 Herba Mystica, 100 shiny sandwiches. It's time for the epic finale in the Indigo Disk DLC. How many shinies would I get? How good was the average sandwich? How good was the best sandwich? Let's get started. For starters, we had to get our bearings under us. This, of course, means beating the entire story. Twice, because of course we had to be completing the entire living dex of the Blueberry Pokedex, meaning we needed the new version exclusive legendaries. Ah, shoot, I didn't do the quest on this game. Between doing the story twice and completing the Pokedex, it took me until just about 48 hours after the release of the DLC, seeing as I was still sleeping, eating, and going to the gym. Keep making them gains, brothers. In the Teal Mask, I got 3 shinies in both games by the end of the story, but the Indigo Disk is a lot more battling, a lot less exploration, so I didn't get any shinies in either story this time, but I would still find a few while I was completing the Pokedex. Oh. Are you kidding me? Excuse me? Once I had found all the Pokemon, including the new bane of my existence, Cyndaquil, I had the Mark Charm in my possession, and it was time for the shiny hunting. As is tradition, we won't be resetting if we fail shinies, and we won't be resetting the sandwiches if there are 0 shinies on them. And as is tradition, we're starting it off with 1 sandwich of each type. But before I was even able to start making the first sandwich, this happened. Did I save? Wait, guys. Oh man, get ready for a lot of that, guys. Get ready for a lot of that. That's a shiny Pyro right there. Look at that. Look at that. Even though this was before the sandwich started, I still added it to the total. Come on, after what happened in Kitakami, I felt like I would need all the help I could get. But of course, we would have to kick things off by looking for the best Pokemon of all time, Sawsbuck. I mean, of course, we were going for Rowlet, but it was a grass sandwich and there were way too many of these things. I figured we'd keep trying to look for starters, so with the second sandwich, we'd set off looking for Mudkip, who has a nice isolation spot in the fire caves here. Only took a few minutes to find. Then I'd head to the beach in search of Froakie or Pomplio, but there'd be no luck on the rest of that sandwich. But in a bout of deja vu... I saved, right guys? We're back. Oh boy, are we back. God, like, are you serious? We're trying to do a video here. So we're at 2 shinies per sandwich so far, but 2 of them weren't on sandwiches. Padding the stats harder than Russell Westbrook out here. We'd round out the Trinity with the Fire-type sandwich. A nice mountainous dual hunt for Scorbunny and Chimchar. And my god, was this Chimchar way harder to see than I thought it would be. You've got the bright orange from the front side view, but then it becomes a really dark orange when it's facing away from you. And the change between those 2 is more noticeable than the change between the orange and the pink. Cursed out of 10. With that, we've done all of the primary typings of the starters. Most of the starter lines these days have a secondary type, however, the only base forms with one are Bulbasaur and Rowlet. Everyone else gains it later, so I made those sandwiches next, and I would utilize our new flying capabilities to spot it from the sky. But there was something else we'd find out about this Rowlet as well. He's marked! He's marked! It's the Orb of Legend! In the Academy's club room, you're able to purchase upgrades to the game through the BP you earn from BBQs. This is how you unlock the starters in the terrarium in the first place. But one of these upgrades is to your zoom feature, allowing you to see some extra info on the Pokemon, showing the gender, relative size, and if the Pokemon is marked. Though I wouldn't be checking what marks our Pokemon had until the end of the challenge like usual, but having the knowledge they were marked kept up the suspense for later. After catching the Borb, it was time for Bulbasaur. A pretty chill hunt as they just stand still after spawning, but with it being pretty subtle, I took a little bit longer to look at them, so no luck with a shiny. Our first sandwich that gave us nothing. With all the starter types down, it was time to hunt one of the best shinies of all time that returned with this DLC, the Metagross line. Everyone calls this one of the best shinies, yet somehow the Violet Paradox shinies are bad. Kind of a double standard there. But before we talk about how unexpectedly terrible this shiny hunt is, I want to take a moment to say thank you guys. I created this channel at the beginning of the year, and somehow we're about to reach 60,000 subscribers. I can't begin to thank you enough for the support you guys have shown for the channel, and I'm super thankful I'm able to share these adventures with you guys. And there's more where this came from, so make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I hope with your help we can make 2024 even better. Let's get back to the Beldum hunt, where you would think amazing shiny, but terrible hunt somehow? I went to hunt it on the mountain, having seen it there earlier, and my god, is this just pure torture. Let me introduce you to my good friend, Snow, which for some reason makes it so if you look at Beldum from behind, it loses all its color. Just maybe look for the gold prongs, you're thinking. Well, with this effect also, for no apparent reason, it can make the bits that turn gold look gold too. This had to have been some sort of social experiment set up by Game Freak. There is no possible way that this is a coincidence. I asked my chat desperately for some other place to hunt this thing, and I was led to Chargestone Cave, missing it at first, but finding a spot that spawned them. Not quite isolated, but better than thinking every Beldum is shiny. Thankfully, after I got here, I wouldn't have to look that hard. I would just have to battle with its horrendously low catch rate, but I was successful. And this would be the end of the hunting for day 1. Our numbers are looking better from these unboosted shinies, but sadly the sandwiches themselves gave us no more than 1 shiny each. Not looking too good to start off, but thankfully we would be looking good to start off day 2. I would set out with a bug type sandwich and look for a straight goofy pair of shinies. Have you seen this thing swim? It's horrifying. I'd find 2 Dupiter rather quickly at the peak of the coastal biome. Another returning bug type is Cleavor. Even with Scyther in the base game, there was no way to get it without PLA. They can spawn on top of this mountain here, but it was mainly just Scyther on a bug type sandwich. Somehow including a shiny one. With that, there are only a couple more bug types I need. Mainly the Joltik line. Now, while Joltik is cool and the bounce for its walking animation is straight up comedy, I wasn't looking forward to this hunt because it's straight up cursed. Chargestone Cave has shiny crystal trolling that would put Area 0 to shame. Pretty much everything in there can look shiny at the right angle. However, this was quite the lucky sandwich, and I was actually able to spot it from pretty far away. And boom! We got 4 shinies on that one, and we've already beaten the best sandwich from Kitakami. You'd think after that, this normal type sandwich would be due for some bad luck, but I'd find a Minccino on it pretty fast, followed by a deerling sleeping under a tree. I was actually on the coast here looking for a Pikipek, and with the next dragon type sandwich, I would initially stay in the area looking for Exeggutor, but I would also be intrigued enough to take to the mountains to look for one of the worst shinies in the DLC, Duraludon. I mean, I was kind of forced to hunt the thing because it got a new evolution. The only thing that kept me from wanting to jump off a mountain myself while looking for it was someone pointing out that the red bit at the top of its head changes to chrome. If it weren't for that glimmering ray of hope, I'd have taken a hard pass on this hunt going forward, but I would look around for now, unfortunately not finding it. After that failure, I thought to go with a ground type sandwich next. Drillbur and Excadrill were on the table, but Golett and Golurk were going to be potentially tough. The base color of the body doesn't really change, just this splotchy part, but there's a great way to hunt these guys at nighttime, and that's with their glow, going from yellow to green. Even with minimal change, I'd say Golurk is still incredibly easy to spot, just because of how big it is. And I would even call my shots with this one. I feel like it's a lot more likely to find a second Golurk instead of a Golett. What did I say? I literally just said it. Sometimes you can just see the future. With my next sandwich, I finally decided to try out the Milcery event outbreaks. Milcery being a rather cursed shiny, both because it just barely changes, and because of what it looks like. I was nerd-necking for this way too much, but in the end I saw it right away. I'd say it being in the polar biome didn't really help though. I would only get 1 shiny on this sandwich, but the next sandwich would be a different story. We went rock type and looked for Alolan Graveler and Geodude. I would find one of each pretty quick, which left some time to look for Granados. But there happened to be a Milcery outbreak covering the area that they were spawning in, and suddenly Milcery became my favorite rock-type Pokemon of all time. Because I found not 1, not 2, but 3 Milcery in a span of like 4 minutes. But unfortunately, my stream was cutting out here though. So here's some of the footage of that was able to get through, I guess. What's happening? Guys, what the hell? Oh no, shoot. We're freaking lagging right now? Seriously? The Milcery were just too much for my internet to handle. I had to restart the router. The sandwich was pretty much over after rebooting, so on to the next. It was a fighting type sandwich which gets you Scraggy, Scrafty, and Tyrogue in the canyon. But there was a large case of Nerd Neck here, taking way too much time, finding no shinies. One of our types remaining is Dark type, and there are a few nice isolation hunts with it, but my target was Muck and Grimer, though I wanted to hunt them on the beach to make them easier to see, so we'd be getting a side of Inkay while we're at it. And that would be our first shiny on this sandwich. Once I was faced with Muck, my Kitakami PTSD came in clutch, remembering that this might have Memento. I'd gotten my Golduck out earlier for Geodude and Graveler, so I taught it Taunt. This way we covered any Memento users or Explodey boys. With an outspeed on the Taunt, we were able to catch it, which I would like to take this time to point out that Muck is number 69 in the Blueberry Pokedex. Muck. Like, come on, Game Freak. There's no way that wasn't intentional. We're all onto you. The good luck on this sandwich continued, getting a Alolan Grimer with a few minutes left, and right at the buzzer, we'd top it off with the second one. I'd move on to Ice type, which is probably the worst type here. As far as I know, there's only one isolation for it, and everything else will put you on high alert. But in the northern waters, it's just Lapras and Dugong, so it isn't all that bad. I'd come across a shiny Lapras, and fittingly would use a Master Ball on it. Thankfully, they give you 3 of these for doing the DLC in the Pokedex, and apparently the printer machine is absolutely broken and can give you more of them potentially. I've only gotten Aper Balls from it so far though, and I didn't really use it at all until after the 100 sandwiches. But while the Ice type is pretty cursed in the DLC, I would say the number 1 cursed type is the Electric type. There are only a few isolation hunts for it, but the bulk of what you're probably going to want is in the Chargestone Cave. And there's like 6 or 7 electric types in there, so you're just playing shiny hunting roulette. For sandwich 16 here, I'd bounce around between doing this and trying for Blitzel and Zebstrika, but to no avail. With 2 types remaining, I would go with the Ghost type sandwich, which doesn't really have too many options. So I would go back to looking for Golett, and I almost didn't notice this thing. Oh, shoot. And that was pretty much all of my options. I decided to go to Chargestone Cave, where Rotom would be an isolated encounter, seeing as I don't have a living form dex of them yet. And our final type to do was Steel type. I'd continue the Duraludon hunt with a side of Metang and Beldum on the mountain with the picnic resets. But everything here is cursed, so I didn't find anything. And that would be all 18 types done. Now we can scatter about and do whatever I want. Which of course the first thing I did was hunt another Rowlet, further adding to the army of Borbs. And continuing the Rowlet into Bulbasaur hunt from earlier, I went with Bulbasaur the next sandwich. Going back to the peak of the coastal biome, it's isolated with a poison type sandwich. Naturally, you want to nerd neck this hunt a little bit, but you should know when you see it. I was able to snag 2 of them on that sandwich. I'd go for more fire starters next, hunting the Chimchar and Scorbunny double hunt, getting the golden rabbit. Looks like Easter came early this year. Sandwich 22, I went for water type and tried looking for Squirtle, but I said fuck that, because it straight up doesn't spawn. I went back to Mudkip, got bored of that, and went over to the beach with Froakie and Poplio, but none of these shinies wanted to show up. For 23, I went Psychic type in search of Galarian Slowpoke, which has pretty free encounters here on the beach. You barely even need a sandwich for it. I wouldn't get anything for now, but we'd come back to it later. Day 2 has gone on for quite some time here, and for my last sandwich of the day, I would go for Alolan Exeggutor. And you can't even see this thing in the shiny animation when you find it. Way too goofy. And with that, we'd finish the day. 18 sandwiches, 26 shiny Pokemon. Something that was completely unfathomable only a few years ago, especially with getting 4 or more shiny Pokemon in 30 minutes, 3 times in one day. Even if part of that was the Milcery outbreak. More about those later. But with so much success, we had a good bit of energy going into day 3. I had a Chestpin outbreak in Chargestone Cave, so I got to making our grass sandwich. The crystal cheese won't hurt you at all on this one, since it's a blatantly obvious green to brown. I found 2 of them down there. Next I'd take to the ground type sandwich in the same area, which isolates Drillbur and Excadrill. And this is when we would have something amazing but very sketchy happen. Stop it. Wow. That's shiny too. Oh my god. Oh my god. Panic. Panic. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Everybody panic. That Drillbur was walking away, and if I were any further from that wall, I would have failed the shiny, as it would have gone out of spawn distance. You can even see it start to go into low FPS mode, that's how far it was. After that near heart attack, I'd look for Diglett and Dugtrio in the coastal cave, with no luck there. There was a Piplup outbreak on the map, so what better time to hunt for it? A pretty common theme for Pokemon in the DLC is that some of the shinies that you think are subtle are pretty easily noticed. Piplup was a decent example of that. The teal actually really stood out here. And an even better example of that is Dugong. The model is noticeably more yellow. You probably won't miss it, even without another Dugong to compare to. A sneaky, obvious shiny. Only thing better is an actual obvious shiny, such as Cranidos, who I would snag on Sandwich 28. And for Sandwich 29, we'd look around for more Borbs, another obvious shiny, after which I'd take to the beach for the not-so-obvious Pikipek and Trumbeak. While they do have some distinguishing features, Pikipek especially is just about impossible to tell when it's from behind. At least for Trumbeak, it has the ring around its neck, which could help you see it from behind if needed. The next sandwich would be another difficult one, Comfey. You have to be able to see the green go to blue, as the flowers don't change color, but thankfully one showed up early in the sandwich. Then I'd take on an easy fairy type hunt, Snubbull and Gramble, both of which are rather obvious, and somehow I would find another Milcery instead, questioning both how I saw it in the snow and why it had to be a Milcery like I didn't have 4 already. To warm ourselves up a bit, next I'd hunt for Snivy, perhaps my second favorite grass starter. But sadly, it didn't get an isolation area, being surrounded by Exeggutor everywhere you go. To Exeggutor, no Snivy. Sadly, this wouldn't even be the most traumatic thing to happen with Snivy. Annoying Exeggutors aside, we've been having some pretty good luck on the sandwiches so far today. 7 sandwiches so far, and at least 1 shiny on each. Now it's time for some bad luck on the next sandwiches. I switched over to my Violet save file, a Psychic type sandwich for Esper and Beldum, but I got nothing. Though I would find the best spot to hunt for Beldum and Metang, and you can actually see the shinies. Head to the Battle Court in the Chargestone Cave and make your way up to the top floor. There's a specific portion of this pathway that seems to have some different spawning rules than everywhere else in the cave, and standing in the right spot with your camera at the right angles, you'll spawn nothing but Beldum and Metang here on a Psychic sandwich. Happy hunting! But again, I still didn't get anything on this sandwich though. Then I took to a rock type sandwich, staying in the cave for a few Minior, then heading to Shieldon, the Violet exclusive fossil, but I again found nothing. But part of this sandwich was wasted because I realized I didn't get the Mark Charm yet, and it just so happened a particular Pokemon managed to escape from my living decks. Really have extra. Oh, what? No. No, Minior. What? Well, at least I had the rock type sandwich on. I'd grab one for the dex and head back to Shieldon, but a shiny wasn't happening at this point. On Violet here, I had a Duraludon outbreak, and decided that it was time to get this done. And after much pain and suffering, straining my eyes to track it down... That's it. Oh my god, yes. Nothing sneaky about it here, Duraludon is just a really hard shiny. With my time in Canada done, I'd take a trip to the savannah. Blitzel and Zebstrika are just about the only isolated electric type target. Sadly, I'd get 2 Zebstrika, so I'll still have to get a Blitzel at some point. Though there actually is a way to get a guaranteed one after doing a certain something. On to number 37, where I'd adventure back to the Duraludon outbreak, hoping to get a second one while it was still there. But even with knowing how to spot it, there's no helping it if it doesn't show up. Moving to the next sandwich, I intended to hunt Litten or Tepig, but the Violet save file here doesn't have these starters unlocked. So instead I would look for Magby with a fire type sandwich, and thankfully this turned out to be a rather happy accident. Oh, whoa! A very rare true double, where you see both shinies at the same exact time, and oddly enough, not even the first one of this series. I'd hop over to the canyon next, grabbing a couple of Tyrogues, one of which got named Dr. Bustdown by popular demand. I don't know why though. I was questioning what to do next, and had somewhat decided on Skarmory, and then I did something stupid, trusting someone in chat. They said Skarmory had an isolation spot on the mountain with a flying type sandwich. Thinking this made logical sense, I made the sandwich, but it turns out they were trolling, and it was successful, because I didn't remember that Minior was up there, and the flying type sandwich would be isolating that instead. But seeing as I already made the sandwich, I decided to use the Beldum spot, as it kept things a bit contained. And then, it happened. We gotta remove those bot commands. That was a quick return. He wouldn't have seen one of those guys. Yes! Yes! Okay, Panic. Everybody panic. Everybody panic! Fuck it. What's really cool about Minior is that the Pokedex actually tells you what core it was originally, meaning you can technically keep a collection of every core shiny. Maybe. By Sandwich 41, we'd come back around to looking for Skarmory, which in Violet is actually a dual hunt, seeing as Shieldon spawns there. No luck on either of those for now. Though to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I completely missed one, and we'll explore why later. I figured I'd stay on something different for now, so we went with Rhyhorn. I felt the flyover strategy was pretty solid for this one, and seeing as I found two, you can't argue the results. With some extra time, I would look for the final Geodude I needed, and boom! Evolution line complete at the buzzer. Aside from the Gen 4 fossil Pokemon, there's one other set of version exclusives, and that would be Alolan Sandshrew and Vulpix. I'd make the Steel-type sandwich looking for Sandshrew on the mountain. It had a side of Duraludon and Beldums, so this isn't the best strategy, which I would find later. Sadly, no shinies on that sandwich. And for the end of the long day, I'd set up shop at the Beldum spot. But this time for Porygon. With those same weird spawning mechanics, a normal type sandwich will spawn nothing but Porygon here. And using its power, I was able to snag two of them before bedtime. We're a decent amount above that 1-to-1 sandwich to shiny ratio, so the hunting has been going pretty good so far. We'd see if this would continue into day 4, but it didn't start off too hot. I'd go with a fire-type sandwich for Litten, finding a nice area on the mountain. There's an even nicer area than this though, and we'd get to that one later, since I found no Litten here. I spotted a Snivy outbreak on the map, and knew I had to go for it next sandwich. But this outbreak absolutely sucked. It was on the edge of where Snivy wouldn't be able to spawn, and I kept getting Trapinch and Chansey intervening. And when I finally did get a shiny, it was another Exeggutor. Go away, man, come on. And everything was going wrong at this point, because I would make a flying type sandwich for an emotional support Borb, only for my stream to cut out. At least after rebooting my internet, I was able to find a round green ball. For 48, it was back to rock type for that last Rhyhorn I needed. After finding it, I would bravely search for another Minior, but those efforts were in vain. I would stick with this area looking for those last couple Beldum I needed, and was able to score both of them. So much easier when they don't all look shiny. I'd head over to the beach looking for Esper, but I still couldn't find it. Surely this would be an easy hunt though, right? Right? Oh god, why is the dramatic music playing? On the next sandwich, I would stumble into one of my favorite spots in the terrarium, being the AFK Torchic Cave. I would end up using this for a lot more than just Torchic, but for now, with minimal effort, I actually found two shiny Torchics on this sandwich. The same cave works for Snubble on a Fairy-type sandwich, so I would also find two of them here. And you've been keeping track of the score here, gamers. you had no choice, it was in the corner this whole time. Yeah, boy. Number 69. Nice. Which Pokemon is it going to... Alright, you know what? No. That's enough. No more. Don't smash Pokemon. No. Stop. Stop. Leave that Popplio alone. No. No. No! I'd head back to the Borbs for shiny number 70, still sadly only getting one Borb per sandwich so far. At least it was consistent though. I'd head back to Shieldon for the next sandwich, but apparently I can only get lucky with one of the fossil Pokemon. I'd pop a bug sandwich next, and for some reason the Beldum spot doesn't work for Joltik. I suspect that it's probably because there's a cave spawn versus mountain spawn region, and this chunk does the mountain spawns. But oddly enough, Joltik will still spawn here. The spot is just very weird. I would find another shiny Joltik, scouring the rest of the cave though. Next sandwich, it was back to Slowpoke, which this time I would do the town reset method with the nearby plaza. I would find a shiny Slowpoke before making an instantly correct prediction. Maybe we'll cop a cheeky deerling or a toucan. Wait, that, oh my, what? 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 This random shiny being followed by another shiny Slowpoke. Next sandwich, I was kind of all over the place, looking for Doduo and Scyther, then to Minior, then to the fossil area for Skarmory. I did have a specific water-type starter in mind for sandwich 58, however, the game had a different idea. Like, super expensive to replace. Oh yeah, we're not getting anything else. Well, are you what? Huh? And the current bout of hunting would stay weird with the next grass sandwich. I would hunt Turtwig in a nice isolated spot, which you don't have to turn the camera for at all. And we would have some moments with a couple of these Turtwigs. Is that... He was trying to hide from me. What an asshole. They, Trico as well? Does somebody want to not be hiding from me real quick? Wait. Are you? Whoa! It's the anti-asshole! Using the same spot, 2 of the next 3 sandwiches, I would get myself a Litten on each one, in between looking for a Porygon that wouldn't show up. And as the night was winding down, I was looking for a couple of easier hunts to get done, which led me to the Torchic Cave once again, and I found that it might be possible to isolate a Alolan Vulpix here. That turned out to be correct, somehow finding not 1, but 2 of them. And my god was I thankful for this, because if you're not sure what to look for, you're easily walking past this shiny. And with the final sandwich of the day, I went to the Coastal Cave. This time finding Diglett and Dugtrio in decent time. I'd then go looking for a Trapinch line shiny, but somehow managed to stumble my way into a shiny Milcery yet again. 64 sandwiches and 4 days down, only a couple more days to go. I couldn't quite remember how this was stacking up against my original 100 sandwiches video, but I knew we were definitely doing better than the first DLC, so at least we had that to be positive about going into the final days. I'd start day 5 optimistic at the prospect of potentially getting close to those original 100 sandwiches. However, I would say there was one main culprit that prevented that from happening. This beach. For some reason, this beach turned out to be absolutely cursed. The Esper, Grookey, and Pikipek hunts were all conducted here. However, several sandwiches went by without getting a single shiny. But you could imagine the relief I felt when I finally got my first shiny on it, right? Yo, Ryan. Coming in with a 4-month resub. What's going on, Ryan? How you been, man? Are you... What? Oh, that's not relief, that's mild anger. Actually, searching for a shiny here was just too much to ask, I guess. You've just gotta let them find their way to you. But neither Sobble nor Mudkip wanted to find their way to me on the next sandwich, though. But the game of shiny hunting is all about persistence and patience. And I'd get both a Scraggy and a Tyrogue on the next fighting type sandwich. One Pokemon that would have been really nice to find is Smeargle. But I found it to be pretty much impossible to hunt this thing without getting a mass outbreak for it. So I roamed around the several areas that it could potentially be at, but I wouldn't find anything on that sandwich. I wouldn't let it crush my spirits though, because of what was coming up. Heh boy, sandwich number 69, nice. Never mind, we gotta stop doing this, man. Like, stop doing Pokemon. Like, okay, you're getting Milcery. Oh, okay, another one. And, oh, wow, you're really getting pretty lucky there. What are you gonna do with these guys? Oh, okay, yikes. I mean, 6 shinies on 1 sandwich though, that's pretty good even with the boosted outbreak odds. I'd go back to my Violet save file to try to get a Sandshrew. Not showing up on the first sandwich, but I'd stick around here and get it on the second try. I noticed that Duraludon can also spawn in the cave, so I decided to go Dragon type next, only to find one outside of the cave while resetting it, followed by a Vibrava over in the savannah. And I'm sorry everyone, I forgot to add this one to the shiny counter, so it'll be wrong from here on out.
This is not right. This is not cool.
This time I had an Esper outbreak on the cursed beach, so surely this would be enough to break the curse, right? Nope, we're still going through pain and suffering over here. I'd pushed my luck back at the cave trying to get myself a second Sandshrew, but I was meeting resistance on this one, and I would have to come back another time. Back to the fossil area where I really hadn't been getting too lucky either, aside from when the Milcery outbreak was here. This is the only place to look for Trico, and I'd finally get it on sandwich 75. I'd keep searching for a Grookey, but the curse of the beach was too strong. Throughout much of this run of the 100 sandwiches, I made it a bit of an effort to not keep hammering away at something for multiple sandwiches in a row. And when I didn't have a particular thing I wanted to do, I would get myself another board. Rowlet's empty stare will always make my day feel better. I wanted to go for a Squirtle hunt next, thinking, I found quite a few of them on the fighting type sandwich when I was coming over here for Tyrogue. And for some reason, it seems like they just don't spawn on your water type sandwiches, and you get more spawns on a different type of sandwich. Before I could even get to this area though, I'd stumbled into a random shiny Sawsbuck. After giving up on Squirtle, I would full send a water type roulette in the polar biome, somehow spotting one of the most impossible shinies ever. Is that it? I think that's it. Yes. Dugong is honestly fine, but Seal, it's impossible. Like, from the front, maybe, but it's incredibly cursed. I don't care what anyone says. I'd try the Chargestone Cave Roulette a couple sandwiches later on Electric type, but I wouldn't find luck there. And I went for the Fire Starter Roulette going in and out of Torchic's Cave, but no luck there either. So I would look to the Borb for more guidance, and this one turned out to be a little bit more special. Is that it? Wow, I almost missed this Borb. This has got to be tiny Borb. That is a tiny Borb. That is a tiny Borb. Oh my god. I thought it was more special because I thought it was number 100 at the time, but, you know, I forgot to add the Vibrava, so what I'm trying to say is my entire life is a lie. Went normal type sandwich next, and I would soon be face to face with both a shiny Porygon and a shiny Doduo, and I'd keep getting up close and personal with some shinies on a fairy type sandwich, getting a couple of quick Cottonies, and I still somehow haven't found a shiny Froakie, after hunting it several times now, but I yet again wouldn't find that or a shiny Poplio on this water sandwich. I'd head back to the Torchic Cave for a Sandshrew hunt to wrap up day 5, but unfortunately, yet again, I found nothing. Though I was taking it a little bit easy at this point because 20 sandwiches each day was getting pretty tiring. I had decided I was trying to get this video out before Christmas, but you know, scriptwriter me here knows that didn't happen. But I knew if there was at least going to be a chance for that to happen, I'd need to be putting in that kind of time. But come the end of day 5, I could relax and take my time a bit going into day 6, knowing that there were only 16 sandwiches left to do. I'd start the day on Violet, trying to look for Shieldon one last time, but it just didn't want to show up. But from there, the good luck started pouring in. I'd go for Sandshrew one more time, accidentally getting this Abomasnow, before finding the little guy outside. And just a minute later, I'd find Crabominable out there as well. Some of the few Pokemon I just hadn't hunted at all yet was the Oddish line. And if I want to get a living dex of them at some point, I'll need 4 of them. So I got to it, finding one of them, but at the buzzer, I would find a different poison type instead. Not knowing what to do next, I'd go for a Borb sandwich. But this time, no Borbs came about. The first sandwich that I didn't get a shiny Rowlet. I was crushed. How could the Borb do this to me? Surely, it was just a sign. Instead of one shiny Borb on that sandwich, it would bless me with the next 8 sandwiches getting at least 1 shiny each. On 89, I'd finally get myself a shiny Sobble, and it would be a marked female one, so it was definitely worth the wait. And then I'd look for Totodile, and I maybe saw 4 Totodile before finding the shiny. And by popular demand, he was named Bard Jr. Oh yeah, I transferred Bard over into the game, basking in his 3-dimensional glory. It was back to the Cursed Beach with a Grass-type sandwich, trying desperately to find a single Grookey, or honestly, just anything. And finally, the Cursed Beach would give me something. Blossom. It was Blossom. But at least I was technically hunting for it, and it was shiny on the sandwich. A recipe good enough to break the curse. I still hadn't really looked for certain starters much, so I decided to take a look for Tepig next. And it didn't take too long to find this time. I would bravely set out to look for Fennekin, but before I could even get to where I was going, I'd find a familiar face. Really? Really? I swear these things are like 1 in 200. I swear. Even going back to Gen 6, I've found more than my fair share of shiny Pyroar, and I've found at least 7 of this line in Scarlet and Violet now. Anyway, the Fennekin hunt was a complete fail, as you might expect. Magby and Magmar spawn way too much in the area comparatively. After this, I decided it was time for the final Slowpoke, but I was rudely interrupted by an Execute, only a reset or 2 after getting there. I'd get my Slowpoke not too much later though. Still having time on the Psychic Sandwich, I figured I still hadn't hunted the Reuniclus line at all yet, so I'd make my way to the polar biome, and boom, a shiny Reuniclus. With the rest of the sandwich, I checked back with the Cursed Beach to see that, yes indeed, the curse was finally lifted, as I would find shiny Esper with the remaining time. I still wanted my shiny Skarmory, but let me show you why this hunt is a little more suspect than you would expect. Is that it? Wow. No, it's not gonna be good. Wait, yeah, it is. What the frick, man? So, while I could see it from far away, the closer I got, the less shiny it got. A word of warning to those looking for your metallic chicken. Next sandwich, I would look for Grookey one last time, finding not 1, but 2 shiny Blossom on this sandwich, before finally getting the yellow monkey. I was also hoping to finally find a shiny Froakie, but I'd just find another Poplio. The luck on this sandwich streak was just so on point that this would end up happening as I went to make my next sandwich. witchcraft are you? What the frick? And on said next sandwich, I would get myself another shiny Borb. And after getting the Borb, the streak would finally be broken. I would stick around with a ground type sandwich where nobody from the Vibrava line wanted to be shiny. I would like to say that I had the idea of finishing with grass, water, and fire sandwiches before making sandwich 98, but I just didn't really know what to hunt, and Mudkip seemed like a good option. I'd get myself a shiny one though, but still no shiny Froakie. Going for grass on sandwich 99, I'd head to a Snivy outbreak, finding this one to be better than the one I had done before. Still getting occasional Exeggutor, but much better than just getting any random Savannah Pokemon at some times. To this point, I hadn't really used the Synchro Machine feature much before this, as people were telling me that it was possible to kill shinies with it, but it's definitely a lot faster to clear an outbreak with. And I wanted to make the most of the time of the sandwich, and as the number of Pokemon that I needed to kill for the outbreak was winding down, the unthinkable happened. No! Ah! No! Ah!
Oh no!
No, dude.
Are you not allowed to highlight, or?
No, I just didn't see him. I just didn't see him until it was right there. At moments like these, you wonder what you could do better. There were many factors at play leading to this death. The outbreak being in the green grass area instead of the yellow grass area, the fact I was moving with the camera turned in a different direction, and the fact that I just wasn't really looking in front of my Goldengo where he was going. The loss of this Snivy put a somber mood on the rest of the sandwich, as I had the gut feeling that I just wasn't going to be able to get another one. And I decided to forego the final fire sandwich that I had planned, which I was actually just gonna waste on a Cyndaquil, just for the shot at redemption. I couldn't leave the end of the 100 sandwiches on this note, not getting the shiny Snivy, the only one that had shown up for me thus far. But as the final 30 minutes became 20, hope was fading. And with only a few minutes remaining, we turned to the power of Dino Dance to try and summon one last shiny. But then... well guys, that is the end of our 100 sandwiches. The clock had struck 0 on the final sandwich, leaving a dark stain on this finale. But what if I told you this wasn't the final sandwich? Well, we thought it was the final sandwich at the time, but as I was gathering all the footage that I would need for the video, I noticed a glaring mistake. Back on day 3, as I was in my sandwich menu trying to decide what to make next, I incremented the sandwich counter, something I would normally do. However, I had then made the decision to switch over to my Violet game, and after having to unlock a couple of things in the club room and organize my boxes, upon making the sandwich, I incremented the counter again, meaning that we actually still had one more sandwich to do. And I can't be out here saying I did 100 sandwiches, but only did 99. I wouldn't want to be clickbaiting now, so I readied my Switch for one last try, and I even went as far as finding another Snivy outbreak, defeating the 60 I needed, and then making the sandwich for maximum odds at getting it. I just had to hold out the hope that it would finally show up again. But deep into the sandwich, my hope was rather depleted. Please. It's like I really want this, but it's like... I also don't want to delay the video. If there's one thing that I've learned from all of these shiny sandwiches, it's that Scarlet and Violet shiny hunting can be kind of deflating when it isn't going your way, feeling you spent a half hour or more doing nothing when you were really expecting something. At least in previous titles, you wouldn't really have the expectation of getting shiny super fast. But even when your sandwich starts winding down, you need to keep looking, because after all, it only takes a fraction of a second for a Pokemon to spawn, and for your luck to turn around. That it? It's it. He's a buzzer beater. The suspense. He's a buzzer beater, man. And there we have it. 100 shiny sandwiches, 128 shiny Pokemon. Slightly worse than the original 100 sandwiches video, but better than Kitakami. For this, I would say two main things were the issue. Number one was the cursed beach, and number two is that I didn't have Philly Bitsu videos to help me out this time. I was largely finding out my hunting locations as I went along, with some input from chat. I also more than likely would have been a good bit worse off if it weren't for the Milcery outbreaks, responsible for 11 of the shiny Pokemon, and responsible for our best sandwich, getting 6 shinies on it. I think it would be be fair to say that we'd be looking at about 3 or 4 shiny Pokemon instead of those 11, so our true final number would be around 120 shinies if you wanted to exclude those. But now it's time for the mark check. Just how good is the new Mark Charm? Evo spin moment. Evo shot 1. The Borb is marked. The Sociable. Extreme is marked. The Sociable. Meh the third. It's literally, we want everybody to be EP, but this one's an early riser. ND Home. ND Home. It's the Sociable. Winter Octo, the Deerling. The Spring Deerling. This was on the beach. It was hiding under a tree. It was hiding under a tree. It's EP! It was actually sleeping! Let's go! Xbox Crown. Can we get some exclamation point pro slots in chat? Oh, we knew that. Yeah. For the record. And he's the Sociable. Moth. Dawn. The early riser. We have Bend Over. Bend Over for this rare mark. Oh, he's charismatic. He's charismatic. Manic Man. Minecraft Manic Man. It's EP. Tesco Man. The Muck. The EP. The EP. We have Boar Brownish. Did this guy get banned? No, he didn't get banned. It was a different guy put around his name. Sociable. All right, we were due for Sociable. We've got Bry. The Golette. The Peeved Mark. We got Cheese Minsta. Mayhaps. The Cloudy Mark. The Cloud Watcher. We've got Emma Loves Whooper. The Bulbasaur. The EP. We've got the Bonkers. It was marked. That's totally bonkers, dude. EP. We've got Cool Quaxley. That's a really cool Quaxley now. Or is it something a little more rare? Oh, I mean it is more rare. We've got Reeves. Reeves is charismatic. The Radiant. Frostbite. Thick Nick Mark? Question mark? The Sociable. Pokebs. 99 type, so it might be. It's Sociable. We've got Neil. Ready. Boom. The EB. Bucci. Bucci the OO. The Zoned Out Mark. Bucci the Daydreamer. Marithu. Eternal. EP. We have Crying Potato. The Sociable. Pokefan 17,000. True and real. The Stormy. Flux Paradigm. The Tyrogue. Oh my god. It's so fitting. Look at that. We've got Pokeblader. The Borby. And she is the Sociable. Carbon Owl. The Dusk Mark. The Dozy. We have Azure Doze. Crafty Marked. We have Ella. Sociable. Mayday. Yo, Bucci coming in with the gifted sub. Going to the me guy. The EP. Mayday the EP. We've got Blister. The Sociable. We've got Skarmory. This is supposed to be named after somebody. I just can't remember exactly what their name was at this moment in time. The EP. We've got Stitch. The EP. We've got Abyss. The Grookey. The EP. Literally everything is the EP mark now, man. We've got Spooky Banana. The Sociable. We have Anima Cat. Oh, it's Sociable. Now it's coming out with the Sociables. All right. We've got Case Archer. The Yellow Core Minior. In the Master Ball. And is marked. The Early Riser. Okay, we'll take it. We have Crank Day. Olfson. The Early Riser. 37 marked shinies. The original video I only got 18, and in Kitakami I got 23. So we can see just how big of a difference the Mark Charm actually makes. Perhaps even more surprising is that Sociable wasn't far and away the most common mark here either, but perhaps this came at the cost of a rare marked shiny. I got at least one of each in the other videos, but perhaps you would say it was just about time for me to not get one. And with that, our third and perhaps final 100 sandwiches video comes to a close. I didn't exactly envision this becoming a full-on series, but, you know, of course I would want to do the same thing on some new maps, and doing these extra sandwiches shows us your average sandwich should get you about 1.2 shinies on average, seeing now we have a sample size spanning over 150 hours of sandwiches, plus however many sandwiches were involved in the 3-segment Dudunsparce hunt, though I wasn't exactly keeping strict tabs on those ratios. And I want to say thank you guys for supporting this series. And once again, thank you for all of the support that you've given the channel over the past year. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and let's hope to make 2024 even better, with even crazier Pokemon adventures ahead. Until then, I've been Trails, and I will catch you guys next time.